What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Coffee with Cory. I'm your host, Cory Smith, here with NC State Wrestling head coach Pat Popolizio. Pat, first of all, I'm tracking back. How many years have you been with the program now? What year is this for you? And first of all, how have things gone so far this year?
Yeah, well, been here for a minute now.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been a long time here in Raleigh. A lot's changed in the city, but you know, business as usual. Dual meet. We're in the season, so going on year 14. This is year 14, so halfway through year 14. So quite a while. Pretty familiar with Raleigh and NC State at this point, so it's a good spot to be. But yeah, as far as season, we're in the thick of it right now. So you use that first semester to kind of get settled in with certain guys, seeing where we're at, who we're going to use. You deal with adversity, and then you got to run with your best lineup, and that's kind of where we're at this point. We know we have guys that are at high levels, and we got some new young guys that are building some experience, and every week, continuing to get better and better. So I think we saw that last couple of weeks in the dual meets we've been in.
Yeah, I started to say year 13, so I didn't want to screw that up. I wanted to make sure. So, but the last 2 weeks for you guys have been, probably two of the tightest matches that you've had in quite a while. I know, obviously, the Virginia Tech matches over the years. There's been a couple others that have been really tight, but the last time out, you guys against Virginia at home, 19-17. Obviously, Isaac Trumble kind of pushes things over the top in that one. And then the Stanford match, a couple tough losses in that one, but you end up pulling out 21-20 based off of the last match, being able to keep the points tight in that one and not giving up bonus points. What have you learned about the team as a whole over the last 2 weeks, given how tight it's been at the start of ACC play?
Well, I've learned this. I know we need every guy that we have, and then if we're a guy out, like the week that Vinny wasn't wrestling in our lineup, it could really challenge us. And that's what we saw in that Virginia duel, that if he's in that lineup, that takes a little pressure off, and you got one of the best guys in the country competing in it that way. So that helps. And then, you go in the Stanford duel, and we knew we were going to be in a tight duel with just the way matchups and rankings on paper. And that's the kind of team we are right now. We got our 6 guys that are ranked pretty high, and then there's 4 that are, on any given day, they got to be in the match and win one of those matches. If not, it's going to be a barn burner duel. And thankfully, we got some guys that can score bonus points. So, yeah, it could make for tough duel meets, but, every week someone new needs to step up, and that's what we've got to do. Next couple weeks, including tomorrow night, there's got to be someone on paper. Maybe he's not the favorite, and they find a way to get that win. And guys who are favored, they got to get their hand raised. We got to get our 5 wins and bonus points. And if you get 6, you should be in a good spot with dual meets.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, how is Vincent doing after missing the previous match against UVA, and then this past week? I know goes to overtime in that match, but it looked like he was dealing with a little bit of an injury there at the end after he lost the match.
Yeah, I think some of that, is just disappointment. You expect to win, and, at this point, he knows he's getting everyone's best competition. There's no secret to it. Gwiz went through it when he was wrestling here, won a national title, came back. Everyone's game planning, and everyone's ready to go because they got nothing to lose when you're defending national champ. People are prepared for you, and that's something week to week he's going to see. No difference this Friday and next week with common opponents. And, he's got to just step up his game. That's one thing with him. He's a competitor. He does not like losing. So this has got to motivate him, and he's got to score his points, go out and be aggressive. But, a lot of wrestling left to go in this season, and a lot of time to continue to get better. And that's what we're zoned in on with Vinny.
And, early on in the season, you were able to have him available, but not having Jackson Arrington for the rest of the season. How impactful has that been for the team, and trying to find that replacement now at this point?
Yeah, it's been a challenge, and that's the adversity that every team at some point's dealing with. And for Jackson's best interest, it was the right time to pull him and get the surgery done. You know, he was wrestling from the start of the season with it. He was not 100%. So we knew that this was the right time, talking with him, the doctor. So short term, you know, it stings, but long term, you know, the good news is Jackson's going to have 2 years eligibility left to come back healthy and be a guy that can run to win a national title. You know, he's that good, and he wasn't showing it. So we had to pull him, and that's where we need someone to step up. You know, we got a couple guys right now that we're playing around with the lineup and see who wants to be the guy and start at 157, and someone that can go out and, you know, beat some nationally ranked guys. And every week we're going to have an opportunity to do that with our schedule.
And looking at, you know, the positives for the program so far, I mean, obviously this team is ranked number 8 in the country, and a big reason for that, especially over the last few weeks, has been Isaac Trumble being able to step up in those situations at 285. You expect him to be the guy at heavyweight every single week, but for him to earn as many bonus points as he has in recent weeks, how much has that helped? And just speak to the, you know, just the impact of him on the program, what he's meant to this program so far.
It's been huge. You know, he's ROTC. He's going to go into the military when he's done. So he's a leader by, you know, his just the career path that he's going down. You know, that's something that he's going to be heavily involved in. And then that carries over to, obviously, when you're in athletics, you know, he's a leader for this team. He's shown that he can win at all levels. You know, his freestyle path has been very successful for what he's been doing in the off season in years past, making, you know, winning U23 world title and then being a second on the Olympic team to Snyder. Those experiences have carried over to now where he's at, you know, and you jump down to the college level, as good as he is and the improvements he's made, you know, he's able to score a lot of bonus points, and he's the dangerous guy to wrestle at heavyweight because he can, you know, he can wrestle all 3 positions in 7 minutes as hard as he wants. And, you know, we're just glad that, you know, he's here. He works hand in hand with Gwiz, so there's a lot of good heavyweight tradition that's carried on in that room between the two of them.
And another guy I want to ask you about too, early on in the season, or, you know, last season, you know, was able to kind of come into his own, but this season has really become one of the better wrestlers in the country at 149. And Coy Biskins, coming into this match, ranked number 5 in the country, has been a top 10 wrestler throughout much of the season. But we saw, you know, over the last few weeks, again, him step up in ACC matches too. I mean, what have you seen from him so far this season, and what's kind of elevated him to being at the level that he is this year?
Yeah, he's made a huge jump. You know, if you look at all the guys that are wrestling this year from last year, you know, I'd like to say he's probably had some of the biggest improvements, and a lot of this is confidence. You know, I think that's the biggest difference from what you're seeing last year to this year is he believes and knows that he's going to win. It's not something he's going out there and, you know, hoping to win. It's how much am I going to win by? And he's shifted his mindset into that kind of wrestler, and that is showing. What he did last weekend against a really high-level opponent was, you know, I think speaks to the jumps that he's made. And, you know, I don't think it's out of reach for him to say that he can compete to win a national title this year. He's that good, and he's good in all positions. He's a really, you know, level-headed kid that's out there competing and has great composure and has all the tools to win a national title. And he's having fun with it. You know, he's in that room a lot. You know, we have our practices come in, and I see Coy in there as much as anyone, and that's when you know a kid's loving it and is only going to get better in due time. And, you know, he's turning into a really good leader for NC State right now.
And, you know, just to kind of keep the focus on another guy that happens to be, you know, top 10 coming into this, Matty Singleton. It seems like, you know, that could be yet another pretty big match for him going into this weekend. I know UNC more than likely starting a redshirt freshman in that match, but you know, he's been a guy that's been top 5 throughout the year. The last week, obviously, a pretty big win for him too, to be able to push this team over the top. And you've needed, as you said, every single point that you can get from him, as well as the others on this roster. I mean, how big has he been this season, and how much growth have you seen from him? Based off of, you know, last year was kind of the breakout season for him, but obviously didn't go the way that he wanted to in the NCAA tournament too.
Well, I think we saw a lot of growth from Matty during last year's season and got hot right at the end of the year. And he's carried that confidence over to this year. And it's the same kind of stuff. He's a really, really hardcore competitor. If in my time here, there's, you know, there's guys out there that hate losing. Maddie Singleton's up there with the best of them. That is a true competitor, and I think I saw a lot of growth with, having the opportunity to train with Trent this past summer when Trent made his world team and going to the world championships. Maddie spent a lot of good one-on-one time with Trent as a training partner, and that's what you want. You're around the best guy in the world, and Maddie benefited a great deal from that. It's showing now in his wrestling, and he's dangerous because he can score from all positions and very athletic. And the best wrestling is still in front of Maddie Singleton. As we get close to the end of the season, he's the type of guy that can zone in and really elevate his game. And we're just working on getting better every week, and we're starting to see that from Maddie Singleton.
And last guy I wanted to ask you about specifically, but Ryan Jack, going back to the UVA match, the UVA duel, you guys, that was, one where obviously a disappointment for him to lose that one 4-2, but bounces back this past week, got down early, but then able to get the pin there in the first period. I mean, just your thoughts on how big that was for him to get that, to be able to kind of, turn the perception around for him after the frustrating loss against UVA.
Yeah, and that's that's one of those matches that we're going to see again, and I'm sure we're going to make our adjustments, and our goal is to obviously flip those results, and I'm confident with the things that he's doing and the type of wrestling. That's the one thing you saw out there is we didn't wrestle our type of match, and that's a good lesson learned, and I think he's well aware of that. And Ryan Jack's one of the best kids in the country. He's shown that over time. He's beaten a lot of high-level guys in his time here at NC State, and he's just got to go out, wrestle his style, and wrestle confident. And we need his leadership and his experiences to showcase Friday night, because he's capable of beating anybody in any given day, and he's just got to get consistent and wrestle with confidence. And I think you get a couple of those matches under your belt, and you're like, all right, I've got all the cobwebs out of me. You can't forget, he was coming off a redshirt year last year and kind of getting in rhythm now with the schedule and wrestling, making weight every week. And I think the more we do that with him, the better he's gonna showcase his skills, and we're gonna need it tomorrow night.
And obviously, this rivalry in any sport is a pretty big one. But this for you guys, having won now at this point 12 straight over UNC, it's something that obviously you guys take a lot of pride in. But I mean, how much have you seen this UNC program kind of develop now at this point, and make this? I mean, it was 19-16 last year, but make this a much bigger match on the calendar too.
Yeah, I mean, we've been in a lot of duels like that, not just with them, but other teams across the country. So it's business as usual, and that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
We just gotta embrace the environment, the excitement, and go out and showcase your skill set. I mean, this is what we signed up for. This is what you want to wrestle at this level and these rivalries, is to have this kind of atmosphere, and you want to see your leaders lead and guys that are champions be champions on Friday night when the lights are out and the band is playing. You gotta put on a show, and our guys know that. They know what's at stake. There's nothing you got to do to motivate in this kind of sport. There's no motivational speeches you need to be given to guys. It's already happened, and when the whistle blows, you got to see that energy start to showcase and go out there. And we know we're going to be in Reynolds. It's one of the best venues in the country to compete at. Our fans get rowdy, and we're going to need everyone there rowdy on Friday night. Everyone come out, go get a beer, and come in and watch some great wrestling.
And I was going to ask you too. I mean, how big is it that you have it at Reynolds? I mean, the fact that the next 2 weeks, a top 15 matchup against UNC, and then a top 10 matchup against Virginia Tech, if the Virginia Tech ranking holds next week. I mean, these are obviously always two of the biggest matches on the calendar, but the fact that you get both of them at home in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, it's big, and that momentum for our fans, I think, is most important. You get two of the best. There's just crazy things that go on in both of these kind of duels, and our fans embrace it. It gets rowdy. I think this is a hard place, for people to compete at, and even, for refs at times. This gets loud. Reynolds is, when guys are having a lot of good action out there or get a fall, it's loud to where you can't hear anything happening, and that's what you want out of wrestling venues. Those rowdy, loud, intimate, on top of you, and that's, I think, when Reynolds was made, this is what kind of setting it was made for. Friday night duels against UNC at home. You can't ask for anything more.
And my last thing I want to ask you too, I mean, how big are the bonus points going to be in this match? I mean, this duel, because obviously, it's always important, but with the margins so tight, especially, given the ranked matchups in this one, and then obviously you guys still trying to work through some younger guys that are going to be trying to step into these matches. Like, how big are the bonus points in this one to be able to try to push this over the top?
You look at our matches, this year, it's a couple of these duels have come down right to that, and even so is who's had, match points during the duel. And I don't see anything any different for this weekend. Our guys know, if you got a chance to open up the score, they got to do it. And we're going to have to be aggressive and put points on the board, and that's a good thing. We want to see good action and put on a show for the fans. But yeah, I think every dual meet we're going to be in this year bonus points are going to matter. With the type of lineup we have, it's someone's either stepping up or, our 5 guys that win need to win with bonus points.
All right, and I've seen what the atmosphere is like in Reynolds with some of these big time matches, but just your pitch to NC State fans that maybe haven't been out to see a match yet this year, or seen the matchups against UNC or the matchups against Virginia Tech over the last few years. Your pitch to them to make this their first one to come out to.
Well, it depends what kind of person you are. If you're in the high intensity adrenaline junkie like a lot of us in sports, this is one of those sporting events that you've got to see firsthand. You got to be there live. TV doesn't do its justice. It's the intensity in the sport of wrestling is pretty high to begin with, and then you throw in, what the next 2 weeks look like. I mean, it's elite. And I've been to a ton of sporting events in my life, and there's just something about a wrestling dual meet with rivals and teams that are in conference that get pretty heated. And there's going to be no different on a Friday night, and our fans are going to come be ready, and it's going to be rowdy in there. And I highly recommend, if you're in town and have nothing going on a Friday night, this is where you need to be.
All right. Well, Pat, I really appreciate your time, and look forward to seeing you. When this comes out, it'll be on Friday, but look forward to seeing you on Friday night.
Sounds good. Appreciate you.
All right. Well, thank you to everybody for jumping on. We'll talk to you guys again.